But today, about a year since the time that LIV was born, today I'm like, what? The PGA Tour agrees to merge with the Saudi-backed rival LIV Golf, golf's newest, longest day. There are so many ways to go about this. I have my own questions. Let's go through some of the tweets, Garrett. One, this is from Dan Rappaport. The players did not know this. There was a tweet from Colin Morikawa that he said it's a hell of a way to start your day by learning about basically your future on social media. Not only the PGA Tours players that did not know this, their agents did not know this, and most of LIV Golf did not know this, including who's been thought of as the biggest of the rebels, and not Phil Mickelson, but Greg Norman. And so he did not know. He's not going to be a part of whatever they do in the future, but that's from Dan Rappaport. We have Phil Mickelson's reaction, a tweet from Mickelson later in the day. Awesome day today on the PGA Tour and LIV coming together as one. Brooks Koepka, who might have been the one that was the final detonation to make this happen. Brandel Chambly has been very outspoken on the PGA Tour, on the Golf Channel about the LIV Golf and, the blood money and all that. Welfare check on Chambly. That was a shot at Brandel Chambly. So we'll get to a couple more other tweets on this. It really almost seemed like it depends on who you ask. Who won today? And there are some that says really that PGA Tour is shutting down LIV, and yet LIV's money is going to act up the ante when it comes to the PGA Tour. To me, no matter how you look at it, LIV Golf made the difference they wanted to make. I don't know who's going to be in charge or how much is going to be in charge. Monahan, the commissioner, looks like, what in the world? You kept talking about blood money, and you yourself are going to be the one that runs this league.
Well, it's a great American tradition when it comes to Saudi Arabia to be able to stand there with your chest puffed out and go, listen, we do not like what you're doing, Saudi Arabia. And then Saudi Arabia goes, wow, what if we bought some weapons from you and then we lowered the price of our oil a little bit? And you're like, you know what? We're judgy with you guys. And Monahan's same thing. Like, you have to be living under a rock to not understand the human rights atrocities that they've committed. And then a year later, the Saudi Public Fund comes and says, well, would you like some of the blood money? And he's like, you know what? I was really hard on you guys. That's not fair of me to do that. Yeah, sure, I'd love some of your blood money. I think the weird thing about it is that LIV made a big enough dent in the PGA, and with Brooks Koepka, who was, I want to say by far, maybe because he might be by far the best player, and he's shown it this year that went over there with them. Dustin Johnson's there too. So those two were gone.
Cam Smith.
There's
some names.
Brooks Koepka going over and then almost winning the Masters, being right in it until the last, 7 or 8 holes this year. And then turning around and winning the PGA for the third time in his career, a major he's dominated. And then 2 weeks later, all of a sudden, the PGA is like, yeah, we need some of that blood money. Let's do it, and let's change our minds. I think that had something to do with it. And LIV was never going to work in the way that it was going to be successful, where they were going to have a big media deal. It was always going to fight with the PGA. The PGA was probably going to lose that lawsuit that Koepka and Mickelson and all those guys were in, because it was trying to create a monopoly, and that would have just dragged out forever and ever and ever. I do think the losers in this here, because the PGA and LIV will PGA is going to make more money. LIV's going to fund this thing. The Saudis have a bottomless pit of cash they can keep throwing at things. This will be more successful, as far as a unity thing. But the losers here are the players who were told by Jay Monahan's, take a stand. Don't do this. This is bad. And
no one more so
than
Rory McIlroy, who has not played well for a couple of months, and you wonder if any of this simmering, if he knew about it, and also was the one that lost his focus here.
So Rory McIlroy, Tiger Woods, all these people have come out against it and stood up against it, and now, against their will, they haven't even told about this until this morning when we all found out on Twitter. Now they're all getting paid in Saudi blood money, right? So they're going to get the Saudi blood money, and they were taking a stand, and now what can you do?
Paxton, Craig, says this is the biggest sports story in history. I'm trying to measure up. I know the AFL-NFL merger back in the late 60s was a huge deal because the AFL was a rebel league, and eventually when they won a couple of Super Bowls, that flipped the switch. But this is a huge story of a lot of people who said one thing and now appear to be doing something completely different.
Yeah, I mean, I think biggest sports story might be a little bit of hyperbole, maybe not, but there's definitely a lot of hypocrisy going on. That's for sure, and a lot to unpack. But you said that what's his name, Jay
Monahan.
Monahan's going to be. What's he going to be running exactly? Because he's not going to be running the PGA, buddy. I mean, I'm going to tell you that right now. I saw a quote on the way over here of. So is Moynihan just going to keep going about his business? Because here's the deal. Y'all are talking about it as though it's like just going to be this one league. And that's not ironed out just yet. Like there's, from what I saw based on some stuff earlier, is like they're going to remain somewhat separate, at least for this rest of the year, maybe even next year. And then I think there's some things that they figure out as far as how that all works together. But based on what I've read so far, and granted, I haven't read every single piece of literature out there, this is not just, okay, you combine and you're just this league now. They think there's a lot of stuff that has to be figured out. And so if, in fact, LIV moves on as it is for right now, for this remaining year and maybe even the year after, and the PGA does the same, or if the PGA stays separate, like Jay Moynihan's not going to be the guy running the show based on a lot of the stuff that I read.
Well, here's from the press release. The board of directors of the new commercial entity will include Al Rahmanian as the chairman and Monahan as chief executive officer. Now, again, the players may still have something to say about this. There might be a damn mutiny here with some of those who feel like they've been blindsided.
And that's the perspective that I saw was the players. Now, what are they going to do about it? Are they going to run and go where? The DP World Tour? Oh, guess what? That's on here too.
That's on here too. So that's also attached at the hip.
So, yeah, I mean, there's nowhere to go. So the thing with Moynihan, that'll be interesting because, yeah, he basically just threw middle fingers and spit in the face of every PGA Tour player. I mean, he really did. He did the most disrespectful business move you could possibly do, given the history and given all of the stuff that's occurred over these last, several months in the last year or two with the PGA and LIV. So, you know what? It all goes back to money. John McClain said this one time, and it's stuck with me ever since. No matter what it is, just look at the money, no matter what it is. And I think that sucks. I think that's really unfortunate, and I understand it. And I'm not like, we need to be social, I'm not like that. I just think it's really disheartening that that's the case. And that even though there were guys that, yes, they're still millionaires, I get that, although not everybody on the PGA Tour is, but there were actually guys who said, you know what, I'm going to do what I think is right morally, and I'm going to be a good person as opposed to just grabbing the cash. And they got spit in the face and called, you effing idiots, you should have taken the money, ha, ha, ha. That's how they feel today, I would imagine. And you know what? That's a sucky lesson to have to learn.
Yeah,
man.
And you wonder if they now, those who could have gotten 6, 8, 9-figure deals, you wonder if there will be some sort of, not retribution, but something with that. And there will still, based on when I look at some of the writing and listening and writing and reading different columns, there still looks like there's going to be some sort of fines for those who did leave to go to LIV, which means the PGA Tour does have some control over that. Now, whether or not there are fines or not, the bottom line is if you got $100 million and you're going to pay a $300,000 fine, so what, or even $1 million fine, you get to go back on the tour, pick and choose where you want to go. Will it be one tour? I don't know. Will there be new events based on LIV and what they produced? I don't know. Greg Norman, who was the face of LIV. Would he not be the face other than what you hear about the money
about
where it came
Phil,
from?
yeah.
Phil Mickelson or Greg Norman. We showed you Mickelson's Twitter. LIV Golf CEO, the CEO, Greg Norman, did not know about LIV Golf PGA merger. According to the Saudi Arabians, PIF governor, PIF is where all the money comes from. He was the front man. He was the rebel. He was the bad guy. And you wonder how he feels. Probably a part of him is smiling because a change has happened. And then again, part of him is, wait a minute, we're about to go into a bigger, better thing, and I can't be a part of it.
It's like A&M watching Texas get invited to the SEC.
Be a great one-on-one with him at some point, you would think, down the road. Former players on the PGA Tour, senior players or not, Paul, made comments about they're at least interested in knowing the end results, but none of them had something good to say about Greg Norman. And that no one said anything. No one took shots at Mickelson. I know Koepka took a shot at Brandel Chambly, who you wonder what his role is going to be on the PGA, on the tour, Golf Channel, because he is their front man on all golf coverage.
Yeah, I think that where this kind of gets really, like, when you look past the PGA on into the future, and, I thought about this. Garrett, you remember when we had Joe Kelly, the pitcher for the White Sox, on in the Super Bowl?
Yep.
He mentioned to me that day, he said, we need different owners in Major League Baseball. And I think he's probably right that some of these guys that are, this is how baseball should be, older owners that don't want to change things and, kind of, always stick the middle finger to the players whenever they get a chance, even to their own detriment of their game. It's true. He was like, well, look, LIV Golf got these Saudi people. Let's get some of those involved. And I don't see why, if Saudi Arabia can continue to influence things like they are with their unlimited, gigantic Sarlacc pit of money that they have, then what's to stop them from getting involved in baseball and the NFL and all these other things, other than those owners saying no? But when are billionaires going to say no to money? Like the PGA Tour, had this big moral stand for 365 days. And the only thing that the CEO and the president of the PGA was trying to do was get his cut of the blood money. That's it. That was his only problem with it. It was that he wasn't involved. That was it.
Apparently, it's one of the most cutthroat moves. Paxton said at the beginning, it's the biggest sports story ever, and I'm not ready to go that far, but I'm not saying it's not. I would need time to kind of think about that. But is it one of the most cutthroat sports, if not the most cutthroat sports move in history?
Yep.
I'd have to think so.
Well, once we realize down deep inside the guts of all of this, but it does appear as if that is the case.
Yeah, a guy who was preaching this left and right, being loyal and blood money and the Saudis and all this stuff, to then turn around and, with nobody, not even Greg Norman knowing about it, to just flip a switch like that.
Or McIlroy, we don't think. Maybe not even Rory, who's
think about those guys waking up this morning who were like PGA guys. The LIV guys, they wake up and they had the biggest smile on their faces ever. But the PGA guys who felt like they were probably fighting a fight, like I was saying earlier about take the money out of the equation because we know that runs everything. But just from the perspective of you know what? I'm not going to take an extra $10 million. I'm going to just do what I think is the right thing, and you just got slapped in the face for it. And that sucks, dude. That's such a bad sign about just...
There's guys who turned down as much as reportedly, and Norman in an interview said that they offered Tiger somewhere in the neighborhood of $800 million because Tiger flips the switch even though he can't play anymore. He flips the switch. So Mickelson, $300 million? Cam Smith got a chunk. No, Koepka got a chunk. One of the things that made me think about this a little bit, never thought it was going to come to this, at least not this quickly, was when at the Masters, you mentioned Koepka was playing well, looked like he was going to win, and then he couldn't hold on the final day, and Rahm did. He really kind of emotionally, which we saw that Netflix series called Full Swing or whatever it was on, where he was a wreck. He was totally a wreck. But he made the comment at a press conference that had he known his health could return to where it is right now, this is during the week of the Masters, he had just won a week or two before on the LIV, that he may have not made that decision. Said he didn't regret the decision, but had he known he could get that healthy again quickly, he may have not made that decision. So he gets to make the decision, make a bunch, win the PGA Championship, and he's right back somewhere. And there's no question. Brooks Koepka was the Joe Namath winning Super Bowl III against the Colts of, in my opinion, winning the PGA that maybe started this ball rolling.
Well, the PGA certainly doesn't want to have LIV guys being able to play in these events and win them. That's bad, especially the one that carries their name. That really had to sting. If you saw, the trophy presentation, it was awkward. It wasn't the, oh my gosh, lovey-dovey trophy presentation you see at most of them. There was a little bit of awkward exchange because of everything that has gone down between the PGA and the LIV guys in the last year. And, because it's not like the Saudis haven't even come out and said as a country, hey, this is a new day for us, like after apartheid in South Africa. It's like, hey, it's a new day. We're moving forward. This is the new South Africa. We're ending these awful things that we did, and we're moving forward as a unified country. The Saudis haven't said a word about it. They're just like, hey, if we throw enough money at you, will you shut up about it? And that's exactly what's happening.
And every corporation, one after the other, from WWE, who kind of got the ball rolling, and now the PGA Tour have all said, yep, we will do that. But, I mean, that's a I know a much bigger conversation and all of that. And, again, I don't know that we know, clearly we don't know all the details yet, but this is not the PGA. This is the PGA Tour, correct? There is a difference.
Yeah, there's a Professional Golfers Association of America.
And that's
like there
not
is the
what
USGA.
we're talking about.
No.
We're talking about the tour
Right.
itself. And like I read earlier, and I've seen it now, I went and looked, and I've seen a couple of other people kind of reference the same thing, but I'm not sure how this will eventually work out. But there is the idea that this will all stay pretty much out front status quo, as far as there will be a PGA Tour, there will be a LIV Golf Tour, there will be a DP World Tour, and that won't change. It's not as though they're all, the NFL and the XFL and the USFL and the AFL, and they bought them all up and they all became just the NFL. I mean, it's going to be still, I guess, separate brands, but, don't hold me to that either. But that is what I've seen a couple of times now throughout the afternoon. And so that will be, another element of this that needs to be cleared up. But, yeah, huge story, obviously.
There was my immediate reaction, not that what my questions are, but with those PGA Tour players who stayed loyal to the tour, will they get anything up front or guarantees like those who signed on with LIV? And you may say, no, they blew that opportunity. We'll see. Should they? That's a question. What will Norman's role be? Well, that's been answered. Apparently not at all. It probably is, though, laughing his off. What a day. And then my other one was this. I remembered the Koepka remarks, which I brought up. I also want to bring up Rory McIlroy has not been the same since about April. He is a fantastic golfer, a flawless swing. I watched him at the Memorial on TV this weekend, and there's something missing with him. And it's such a fine degree. It just could be his mind or swing is messed up. And you wonder, Rory put himself out there as the battering ram, as the spokesperson for the tour, and not Justin Thomas, not Jordan Spieth, not even Jon Rahm, although he was vocal. It was Rory, and his game has suffered. You wonder if that wore him out, or if, in fact, he knew this was happening. Because when was the last time, guys, you heard Rory McIlroy really say anything about LIV? In fact, the last time I saw him asked about it, he said he just did not want to talk about it anymore, and you wonder if he knew this might be coming.
I don't know. I mean, if nobody else knew, I don't know why they'd just tell Rory, but maybe it did, or he got an inkling that it was happening, and that maybe the PGA had softened its stance. But, yeah, I wonder. I mean, of all the people that were done wrong, it's been Rory McIlroy, who, being one of the best golfers on tour, standing up and saying, no, go to hell, Saudi Arabia.
Justin Thomas, Jon Rahm, and two or three others. Yeah.
I mean, but for him to stand up and very loudly often be like, no, go to hell, I'm not doing it. And then for them to do it to him is just wrong.
Garrett, can you get a close-up of